In any event, the next witness is Rosie Pace.
Miss Pace, will you bring in Miss Pace, please? Commissioners, again, I ask you to then remind myself, too, that we should be to the point and brief, because we do have 13 or 14 witnesses to go, and we have a day and a half to do it in.
Mr. Mayor, while she's coming in, Mr. Flynn, these volumes are available for our inspection, are they not? If we...
Absolutely, and if the Commission desires, I will have them introduced into evidence at the close of the proceeding for your perusal.
Commissioner Burfield, also, many of the documents which Mr. Flynn is referring to was in fact submitted as appendices to his initial report. The problem with that was that the appendices were about this high.
I realize that.
In addition to the report, and so we didn't distribute them, but certainly they are available in the public library, and they're also available down at the city clerk's office for anyone that would be interested in reviewing.
Correct. On that point, I might simply suggest that just to review Guardian's office documents involving operations in the city of Clearwater is a volume about yay thick of probably 1,000 pages. In Guardian's office operations nationwide is probably 5,000 to 10,000 pages that is either currently on record or could be produced, and that is not even getting into issues of financial issues, training issues, legal issues such as these releases and waivers that I put into evidence.
If it please the Commission, at the end of the hearing process, then I would like to have as many of these documents entered in addition to the documents that he is entering in throughout or during the testimony to substantiate it. I'd like as much information as possible from both sides.
Okay, let's get with Miss Pace. Miss Rosie Pace, I have to ask you the five. Before I do that, I must ask you to be sworn in, please. To the clerk there, Miss Lambert.
Would you raise your right? Do you promise to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Okay, Miss Pace, we're going to ask you the five basic questions, and then we'll get on to we'd like to have you discuss your role. First question are you appearing here today and testifying under oath voluntarily?
Yes.
Have you been paid by anyone for your testimony other than the expenses for coming to Clearwater?
No.
Do you have a lawsuit against the Church of Scientology?
No.
Does the Church of Scientology have a lawsuit against you?
No.
Has anyone suggested to you that you should state anything but the truth, or has anyone suggested that you change your testimony for any reason?
No.
Are you, just to set the stage, are you the sister of Lori?
Yes, I am.
Who spoke yesterday?
Yes.
Ms. Pace, would you like to make a statement, or would you like me to start in asking you questions, or would you like to do it in your own way?
Well, I'd like to tell you how I got into Scientology.
I'd like to hear that, and yes, please.
Okay. I've been in, first of all, I'm very, very nervous.
I know you are, and you've been waiting a long time, so...
I came into Scientology 17 years ago, in 1965. I was 13. And I was having a lot of trouble with school, and I didn't want to go.
To school?
Yes. So my sister Lori had gotten involved in Scientology, and she thought this could help me. And her intention was for them to make me want to go to school. But when I went into the organization, they told me, well, I was right to not want to go to school. And...
At age 13?
Yes. And that the Board of Education was suppressive, and that I would be harmed if I did go to school. And at the time, I loved it. I thought that was great. And that they would write a letter to the Board of Education that I was getting spiritual counseling so that I wouldn't be sent to a reform school or anything like that, that it was okay that I didn't go to school because of the spiritual counseling.
Did they write a letter?
Yes, they did.
Did the Board of Education for that particular community agree that spiritual counseling was more valuable than school?
At the time, It was supposedly for a brief period of time that I would be getting the counseling. Somehow I managed not to go to school. And I just went enough not to be sent to a reform school, and I started getting Scientology training at the age of 14. And I was a highly classed auditor at the age of 16, and that has been my life.
Your life, when did you leave the church?
Just 2 months ago, officially.
Can you tell me something with respect? Were you in Clearwater?
Yes, I was.
How long were you in Clearwater?
I was in Clearwater for 7 months, from May 79 till December 79.
Can you tell me something about the activities at Clearwater?
Well,
From your first-person point of view, that you actually saw.
all right. I arrived in Clearwater, and the first night I was taken to a room at the Gray Moss because there was no dorm for me. The next night I was brought to a dorm which had no light, and I had my luggage, and I couldn't get in the room. There were about 10 beds in the room.
How old were you at the time?
Well, this was 3 years ago. I was 27. And there were suitcases all over the room and no light. So I just walked downstairs and I said, I'd like to pay for my own room because I don't want to stay in the dorms, and that's what I did. And I was here for Ned for OT's training.
Nefertiti's?
Ned for OT's.
Oh, Ned for OT.
Right, which was supposed to be beyond your wildest dreams, and this was going to handle everything that's wrong with you. And that I would be treated like gold when I got to the flag land base. And I later found out that that was an absolute lie. I started my training. It was going along fine. And Lori had come 1 month later. And she was having a little bit of trouble, and she blew, as she said. And my other sister, Annie, was with me. We got pulled into ethics immediately, and they told us that it was a conspiracy. And I got very physically ill. I had a high fever and swollen glands, and I couldn't get out of bed. And I was ordered out of bed because there was going to be a meeting with the senior CS of the flag land base. So I got out of bed, and he screamed and screamed and screamed and ordered me back on post the next morning. Also, my sister Annie, who's not here, was sick also, and he ordered her back on post the next morning, and he said he would not tolerate any illness.
Who is he, and what was his title?
He was the senior case supervisor. His name was Jeff Walker. And Lori came back the next day. By this time, I was afraid for Lori, because as far as I was concerned, this man, this Jeff Walker, was insane. The way he was screaming and just totally psychotic. Anyway, Lori came back, and I was having severe headaches. I've had them for a long time, and they had gotten worse. And I decided to see an eye doctor because I had some trouble with my eyes, and I thought maybe that was the problem. Anyway, it ended up I had an eye operation. That's how I got out of the flag land base. Before then, I couldn't get out. I thought I couldn't get out mentally. I couldn't leave.
What was wrong with you that they forced you out of bed? I mean, were you just emotionally drained, or did you have the flu, or did you...
I had a high fever and swollen glands, a sore throat, and I was just very weak. I was very upset that my sister had blown, because that's the worst thing you can do in Scientology. And I was afraid what was going to happen to her when she returned.
Weren't you concerned, or them, that you might infect other people?
I'm sorry?
Weren't you or they concerned that you might infect other people, forgetting about your own health? But you do have a temperature. You may have been contagious and affect the whole dorm or the whole organization.
Well, obviously, he didn't care.
Is that standard practice, that when you feel ill that you can't go to a doctor?
Well, you're allowed to go to a doctor. I wasn't told to go to a doctor. I was told to return to post. So that's all I know. You are allowed to see a doctor.
Can you go alone to see a doctor, or must you be escorted there by a...
The MAA, the Master at Arms of the Flag Land Base, said he had to come with me.
You couldn't go on your own?
Well, I convinced him that I was able to go on my own, that I really didn't want him to come with me.
Could you give that title again, please?
Master at Arms.
Master at Arms.
That's the ethics officer.
If you had a physical ailment that may be rather personal in nature, would that ailment be concealed from the Master at Arms or from the organization, and would it be just between you and your doctor?
No. No, the doctor is to write a report and give it to the medical officer.
Were these doctors chosen at random out of the phone book, or were they Scientology doctors?
They weren't Scientology doctors.
Can you tell me about anything more about the living conditions in Clearwater?
Well, I didn't live in a dorm, but after I had my eye operation, I couldn't stay in my regular room because there was auditing going on in there. And I spent most of my days in dorms, just sleeping on a bunk. And there are ants crawling all over you. There are
Ants?
Ants all over the bed. There are 8 to 10 beds in each room. No air conditioner. Luggage all over the room. You could hardly walk. There are roaches all over the entire building.
What about maid service? Or did you change your own linens and wash your own linens? And...
If you're a staff member, you handle your own linen, do your own laundry. If you're a public person,
you had maid service?
yes.
Where did you find these maids? Were they from within the community that are trained domestics, or were they also Scientologists that were doing penance?
They were staff members.
Staff members.
The Church of Scientology, yes.
How do you get to be a maid? I mean, you apply for the job, or are you given that job for performing your duties
Well, I
less
believe
than well?
I believe when you first come in, you do this sort of work.
You work your way up within the organization,
Yes.
from a maid to a higher position.
Yes, I didn't go through this process, but you do physical work before you're promoted.
You apparently were highly trained within the Church of Scientology. How much money were you paid as a staffer?
Well, it varied through the years. Sometimes nothing. Sometimes $20 a week, depending on how much they made that week.
All right. If you were starred at 13, and you say you were in there for 17 years,
Yes,
and obviously your education must have been limited.
yes.
Your skills, marketing skills, must have been limited. You were paid at the most $20 a week. How did you support yourself and buy personal objects and clothes and things?
Well, when I was a teenager, I lived with my sisters, and I babysat for them, and Lori was married, my sister Lori, so that's how I lived then, and I worked on the outside to support myself later on.
Did you work in Clearwater?
No. I had a business in California when I was at Clearwater. That's how I was able to get my own room.
You and your sister seem like very industrious women, in spite of all you've been through and the number of years were spent in Scientology.
Mm-hmm.
We've talked about the, did you have, what about the fair game? Has it been affecting you when you left? Have you, since you've left the church, have they tried to contact you or talk you into coming back within the organization?
No, the only person who called me was my husband, who left me. When I told him what I had found out about Scientology and that I had just been miserable.
Is he a Scientologist?
He's in the Sea Org, and he's filing for divorce. And he's the only person who has called me and tried to harass me, but hasn't.
If you were not married to a high-ranking member, do you think you would have been, I don't want to phrase the question that way. I'll yield now to Mr. Hatchett. No, Mrs. Garvey? Mrs. Garvey, sorry.
Did you ever find out in particular, Mrs. Pace, what your illness was?
No.
When you were auditing, did you assume that the auditing information was confidential?
Yes.
When you were audited, did you assume the information was confidential?
Yes.
When you were auditing, were you told it was based on scientific techniques?
Yes.
What were you told about the Guardian office?
I was told that the Guardian's office was there to protect Scientology and L. Ron Hubbard against the FBI, CIA, AMA, that they were attacking Scientology, and that's what I honestly believed all these years.
Did you have any contact at all with anyone from the Guardian's office, or were you ever called in for any reason?
No.
Did you see the medical officer when you were having problems, and did he prescribe anything or have any directions for you?
I saw the medical officer once, and I told him I wanted to see a doctor, and he didn't prescribe anything.
Okay.
I just had to go through him.
Okay. Why did you leave, finally?
Because I hated it. I wanted to die while I was there. I was hoping, and this is the truth, I was hoping that when I went to the doctor that he would tell me I had cancer and that way I could get out, because mentally I could not leave the Flagland base unless I was dying.
You mean you were so committed towards what you've been doing for 17 years that you just couldn't say I'm no longer
Right.
and walk out? Even though you don't feel that are you benefiting anything anymore? Or
I was a nervous wreck. I was shaking. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't eat. I lost 20 pounds. I was miserable and unhappy, and I couldn't walk out the door. I thought I couldn't walk out the door.
can you explain a little bit why you were so miserable, so unhappy? What precipitated that?
Yeah. I think Lori gave her testimony yesterday, and I saw what they did to her. Lori got very physically ill, and her legs swelled up. She had arthritis, and I saw her humiliated and forced to work, to do physical labor. And the same thing happened to me. And I looked around and I said, what am I doing here? I didn't see that we were freeing the planet, or that anyone was getting better. Mm-hmm. But just that they had people working for $17 a week from early morning till late at night. And when you get ill, you get treated badly. Instead of going to a doctor and staying in bed, you're treated very badly.
The feeling I have between you and your sister is that you love each other very much.
Yes.
Do you think you would have believed it if it had been someone that you didn't know personally and very closely?
No.
Mr. Hatchett?
Hi, Miss Pace. How are you this morning? At the Clearwater Flag operation that's here in Clearwater, were you aware of the epidemic type of unhealthy situations that existed, hepatitis or anything like that, while you were here in the Clearwater Flag office?
No.
Were you ever confined for misbehavior or not meeting quotas or something like that?
After Lori had left Blue, we were separated and put into our room, and we had a guard by the door, and we weren't allowed to leave. She happened to be a friend, and we convinced her to leave, that we wouldn't leave the Flagland base.
Okay. Did you have any knowledge of how money was collected at the flag operation here in Clearwater?
No.
Did you sign any contracts or waivers that you could not hold the Church of Scientology responsible in any way for any of their acts? Like when you first came in, did you sign waivers? And you may not have been aware of what you were signing?
Yes, I have signed waivers.
You have signed waivers?
Yes.
Right. Were you aware of the RPF
Yes.
type of confinement?
Yes.
Did you actually have first-hand experience there?
I have never been on the RPF, but I've seen people on the RPF.
What may have been your impression of their physical condition going in or coming out?
I saw people with sores all over their body. On the RPF, you're not allowed to walk, ever. You have to run constantly. And they just looked exhausted and physically ill. That's my opinion.
Would you consider then the conduct of the Church of Scientology in order to control you and physically control you and also have the proper mindset to serve them for 1 billion years? You've heard that term?
Yes.
Would you call that repressive in any way?
Yes.
Yet they say the world generally were repressive, right?
Mm-hmm.
But they use tactics far beyond that to achieve their goals. Would you say that?
Yes.
Against anyone?
Yes.
Thank you.
Mr. Shoemaker.
Ms. Pace, I hope you understand. I know that you're nervous, and I can't blame you for being here. I've been doing this. I've been doing this for a number of years, and I still get nervous.
Okay.
But please be rest assured that we all are very interested in what you have to say, and the questions we ask, we certainly don't mean to be personal or embarrassing, but we are attempting to try to find out certain facts related to this.
Okay.
I'm not going to embarrass you. I just thought I could do it.
All right.
Are you familiar with the fair game doctrine?
Yes.
What does that mean to you?
That means if a person goes against the church, they are fair game, and anything you do to them is all right.
Was that common knowledge while you were a Scientologist?
In the early days, it was, and now I believe it's supposedly canceled, but possibly they canceled the policy, but I believe this still goes on.
At the time that you were still in the church,
Yes.
did you believe that there was such a thing as fair game doctrine, or did you think about it?
I did believe it.
You
yes.
did?
Yes.
What is the worst thing that can happen to a Scientologist?
I don't understand.
In terms of devoting your life, which obviously you did,
Yes.
for a period of 16 or 17 years, and I'm walking on sensitive ground, but with the beliefs, what is the worst thing that somebody could say could happen to you as a Scientologist? The worst thing that could happen to you in your life?
Do you mean after you leave the church, or while you're
Or even leaving the church?
I think the worst part of the Church of Scientology is the feeling that you can't leave. Through the processing, which I consider damaging sometimes, I feel that you get brainwashed to a point where you feel you can't leave, which is the worst part, the betrayal that you're leaving the group when they're supposedly freeing the planet, and this is drummed into you. And even now, I still have the effects of Scientology. I'm not over it yet.
Do you feel that you would have left if it hadn't have been with the incident that occurred to your sister?
Yes, eventually I would have.
Eventually you would have.
Yes.
Is your other sister still a Scientologist?
No, she's not.
She is not. There was Lori mentioned yesterday a comment about folder pages. That is, young people that carry folders, which are auditing folders, as I understand. Could you go into that a little bit in terms of what the age of these individuals are and what they do, and to your knowledge, whether they have any kind of an educational process or what have you?
Well, I think the ages are, from what I've seen,
Right.
Are from about 8 years old, maybe till 13, 12 or 13. And what they do is carry folders back and forth in the Hubbard Garden Center, from session to session, and then back to the Hubbard Garden Center. And that's really all I know about it.
What would be their normal hours of work that you would get?
I wouldn't know.
You wouldn't know?
No. I've never seen them go to school.
You have not?
No, I haven't.
Have you ever been in the nursery or any of the classrooms where the children would be taught?
No.
Were you aware of the RPF in terms of where they were located in the Church of Scientology, physically located?
I didn't know where they slept.
What was your feelings and your general beliefs of Mr. Hubbard, and how did that relate to when you initially became a Scientologist, or while you stayed in during your...
Right. Well, when I initially became a Scientologist, I wasn't interested in L. Ron Hubbard. As I said, I was 13. And
Right.
Later on, I thought L. Ron Hubbard was the greatest man in the world for developing this technology. Once I became an auditor and I had all my training, I thought he was the greatest man in the world, and I'd never say anything against him.
And was much of this based upon his background as portrayed by the church?
Yes, his background and what I thought he had done.
Right, and that also relates back to the question of being a nuclear physicist.
Yes.
And so forth. The books that you have read through the time that you've been in Scientology, I'm sure you haven't had time to reread them at this point, but do you think you'd have a different perspective on what those books say now that you know what Mr.
Yes, I do.
Yes.
Yes.
From what I understand, being an auditor is a very prestigious type of a position within the church.
Yes.
Why did you elect to become an auditor, or was this something that was suggested to you, or how did that come about?
I wanted to help people, and this is how I would do it, by getting the training and then counseling people.
So this was a major attraction for you then within the church itself?
Yes.
At the time you were doing the auditing, I know Mrs. Garvey mentioned this before, but what would you guess that you have audited? Thousands of people?
Yes.
During this period of time, certainly you received a great deal of confidential types of information from the various people.
Mm-hmm.
How would you relate your role as an auditor to these individuals in terms of what they're saying, and like a confession, or
Yes.
it's similar to a confession?
Yes.
During the time that you did this auditing, were there any promises that were held out to the individuals that you were auditing that you were aware of, or that was either made by the church, or what? What was supposed to be the benefit of the audits to the individual?
Well, basically the person was asked what they wanted to handle in Scientology before they got counseling.
And that might be like what? What types of things that they might wish to handle?
Well, maybe they wanted to communicate better, or they had a physical illness.
It could be a physical illness or a mental illness or something such as that.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And then based upon that, then what was the auditing to accomplish?
Whatever the person had said they wanted handled, the auditing would attempt to handle that.
So the auditing was supposed to help that particular problem, whatever it might be, whether
Yes.
it be a physical illness or a mental illness or anything such as that.
Yes, I don't believe they ever promised to handle physical illness,
Okay.
but it is known that they do.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Ms. Pace, you're 30 years old, correct?
Yes.
And you've been in Scientology over half your life.
Yes,
How much education have you had?
very little.
What is the last grade you completed in school?
I went into the 9th grade, just, as I said, just not to be sent to a reform school, but I've never completed it. I didn't go to the 8th grade. I went for a while in the 7th grade. Most of my training was just in Scientology.
Why do you think the Scientologists want to keep a young woman like you from gaining an education? I will not answer the question for you. Why would you think they want to keep you relatively uneducated?
Well, the reason I was given was because the educational system was suppressive. I believe it's because they want to use me as a staff member and an auditor.
I have something I'd like to introduce as evidence. It's ethics order number, I'll read it to you. It's from the Sea organization that was found in a public library. It's ethics order number 56 IMO, and as I read it, maybe you can interpret it for me. I don't understand it. It's November 29th, 1981. It's a word I'm not sure how to... New interpolation order.
Oh, non-interpolation order.
Non-interpolation order.
Yes.
I'll mention the man's name, Jim Logan Cram off MSB. There has been several instances of Jim interpolating senior executives of the IMO over the past 3 weeks. Parentheses, evidence with HCO. Close parentheses. He has been attacking upstats, both verbally and in writing offline chits containing false and alarming data about our senior execs to other senior execs. Any instance of interpolation from Jim will be dealt with by a suppressive person order being issued forthwith. And it's signed PO3 Eric Knutson, Knutson, I and R MSB, authorized by AFC CW for the Board of Directors of the Church of Scientology International. What's all this about? Do you know? Can you interpret this for me? And this is an exhibit, sir.
I don't know what the initials stand for. All these.
What is interpolating? What is interpolating?
Interpolating. That means causing upset, something to that effect. Causing things to not be run smoothly. It's interpolation. Apparently, this guy had been interpolating his executive. It says he was attacking upstats. That means when a person has up statistics, he was attacking them somehow, verbally. He was writing false and alarming data about senior executives to other senior executives. And he was to be dealt with a suppressive person order.
What is a suppressive person order?
Well, that's an order that comes out that declares you a suppressive person. And no other Scientologist can communicate with you.
That is different than being put in the RPF,
Oh, yes.
Is that correct?
Yes. You're still a Scientologist when you're put on the RPF. When you're declared suppressive,
You're no longer a Scientologist or an enemy.
you can work through the conditions and get back up to being a Scientologist. Yes.
And that was still in effect at the time you were a Scientologist
Yeah.
2 months ago.
Oh, I don't know, up to 2 months ago.
But the last time you were here in Clearwater,
Yes.
which was, when did you say?
79.
December 79.
Yes.
For Mr. Logan, hate to do it to him, but I had to enter that into evidence.
Mary, you might ask Mr. Walters is here.
Mr. Walters, if you would like to interpret this, we frankly, I don't know if I mentioned it, we found this in the public library.
Correct.
What
Someone
policies
forgot to
might
pick it
come
up.
into effect
And,
and why
I-
you suppress a person?
What this probably is this young man probably saw something that he didn't agree with, bad living conditions, unkind or criminal actions being done by higher-ups. So
Are you still under oath, sir? Do you consider yourself to be under
yes,
oath? Okay.
yes. So he wrote in Scientology,
You have to write a check and you have to write it up. So, because verbally saying it will get him in the same trouble that this will. So he wrote it up. It went up to the higher-ups.
the higher-ups saw that he knew about sensitive operations, or he was aware of bad living conditions, etc. So they, as Ron says, they attacked him. And this is very heavy on an individual, because if he's been in a long time and he's working 14 to 15 hours a day, he is told that if he continues this, attacking the people or clearing the planet, he will be made a suppressor. The suppressive order is put out legally like this, that this Scientologist knows that he is now ready for fair game and anything can happen to him. He will get this and quickly be glad to do any condition they give him. And he will be a good boy after this.
And some of the conditions he would be given would be what?
Enemy, treason.
Doubt.
Now, some of the conditions he would go through to come back into the planet.
Yes, he will have to, if he's lucky, he'll go on the RPS. He won't consider it lucky when it happens, but
I see.
because the suppressive order is the highest thing that can happen to you. The damage to the mind is much more severe.
Mr.
than
Walters,
the
who
piece
would
of
that
paper.
have been signed by with the code of the...
Yes, they did this to me.
No, sir. I mean, who would... What would that represent, that name in terms of, at the bottom with the code of who is that?
It's authorized by ABC with his authorization verification committee. It's for the board of directors of the Church of Scientology. This is the people that none of us in Scientology even know who they are. It was put in when the government wanted L. Ron Hubbard to show up. So it appears now that he's not involved in it. The board of directors do all these things. This is also sent worldwide, which means he is not safe anywhere on the planet.
I have another piece of evidence. I'd like to introduce as evidence. It's rather hard for me to read because it's a very light copy, but I will if it says Committee of Evidence. It relates to Jim Logan. A Committee of Evidence is hereby convened on interested party Jim Logan. Data to hand is that Jim has been interpolating execs in the IMC by spreading false reports since he has returned from his extensive leave approximately 3 weeks ago. Jim had an approved 3-week leave to attend to record an album with the band Future Track in the LA area. Jim didn't return from his leave on time and was eventually petitioned to extend the leave for an additional period. This was approved but does not override the fact that he was off post illegally with an undetermined Quail MSB. His production has been reported to be approximately 1/4 of that of other cramming officers in Quail, Qual, over the last 10 days. He has also reported to HCO a few days ago that he was going to route out of the SO and demanded a leaving staff routing form, but later changed his mind. He has refused to write OWs or do conditions of any kind. The charges placing Scientology or Scientologists at risk. 2, permitting a section, unit, department, organization, zone, or division to collapse. 3, overworking an executive by ignoring one's duties. 4, neglect of responsibilities resulting in catastrophic even when another manages to avert the final consequences. 5, harmful, flagrant, and continued code breaks resulting in important upsets. 6, knowingly giving false testimony to imperil a Scientologist. 7, engaging in malicious rumor mongering to destroy the authority or repute of higher officers in the leading names of Scientology or to safeguard a position. It says that's the 7 charges. Then it says the committee shall consist of Chairman Sonia Cavella, Secretary Rusty Hilton, Member Karen Spencer, and Member Eric Malm, M-A-L-M. The committee is to look into the crimes above and any others that have been committed. They're here to fully look into this matter with a full sense of HCO, PLO, looked on, don't listen, and other applicable PLs on committees of evidence in Volume 1 and elsewhere. Findings and recommendations are to be submitted to the convening authority within 7 days. It's, again, signed PO3 Eric Knutson, INR, etc., Board of Directors, Church of Scientology International. I introduce this into evidence.
So it's late 1981, still declaring suppressive persons, Mayor?
This was found in a public library. I'd like to introduce as evidence. This was found in a public library.
Around the first of the year.
You want to comment into this? Do you know anything about this?
Comment it out.
Yeah. Well, we don't really understand what this is all about, or whether we should, but we're giving it to you as evidence for whatever it's worth.
Well, what they have here is a list of charges to declare this person suppressive. That's basically what it is. It's hard to go over the whole thing and do all they can.
Well, okay.
Maybe Mr. Walters would like to explain a little bit of it there.
As I said, it's a very light copy, Mr. Walters, but hopefully you can read most of it.
Yeah, it's a standard COMEV, meaning Committee of Evidence. Lori has seen this. We've seen lots of these. These are the standard charges taken out of the Book of Ethics and Policy because he's probably criticized the upper seniors, and so now he's guilty of suppressing Scientology. I might mention one thing, only because of my experience in the Guardian's office. It looks very real and everything, but be careful for dead agenting, meaning something that is sent to you, and this guy may not even exist. It does look real because I mean, this is the standard copy, but just be careful. You're dealing with a very clever outfit. Anyway, I just want to mention that. Dead agenting means that they will know you're doing an investigation, so they will send one of your commissioners a letter by a so-called Scientologist, and that Scientologist will meet with you, and you'll bring him to the hearings, and he will turn you around just as that guy from El Salvador just turned the government around. It's called dead agenting, and then, of course, you will not be believed. It comes from the, as Ron told us on tapes, it comes from the early days when an agent would tell the king something, and then they find out he was lying, and they kill the agent. So if you give a guy false information and you find it false, Mayor, then you wouldn't talk to that fellow again, would he? So, I mean, just be careful of that. This is a very intelligent operation.
Who would that normally be distributed to, Mr. Walters?
This goes worldwide to every org and mission in the world.
But would an individual member see that, or?
Oh, yes. This is how they know it. Stay away from him. Do not talk to him. He will be treated very degradingly. And he will quickly want to do the conditions and praise Hubbard forever.
Thank you. All right, one more question. Did it occur to you that being a young woman yourself and at 13, didn't it ever occur to you that this is wrong to have an organization have a group of their youth being functioning illiterates?
Yes. Up until a few years ago, I really didn't think about it. I thought Scientology was the most important thing you can do. And I didn't believe that education was harmful, but I thought Scientology was more important. But recently I've been looking, and I've seen Lori's little girl, my niece, and she's going through what I had gone through, catching up on work, and it's because of the Scientology school. That now she has to go back 2 grades when she's a brilliant child. So now it makes absolutely no sense. It is harmful. You know, I believe in education.
When did you first think that Ron's, as you refer to him, background was suspect?
I didn't think about his background up until maybe 3 months ago when I actually saw things. I just knew there were terrible outnesses in the organization, and I knew that he was behind it.
What was behind it?
I knew that he was behind it. I just didn't have any proof.
You just didn't question that?
I just thought the organization was insane, and I thought L. Ron Hubbard didn't know anything about it. This is up until a couple of years ago.
Up until 3 months ago, you still thought L. Ron Hubbard was a nuclear physicist, an engineer,
yes.
a war hero, and cured his own blindness?
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Koldebeck.
Yeah. Hi, Rosie.
Hi.
In your education background, Scientology encouraged you to leave at 13?
Yes.
To get out of the public school system?
Yes.
Did they ever give you, after that, any regimented or any type of education in math, reading, English literature, anything that you would expect in the New York school system?
No.
You also heard Lori's testimony.
Yes.
Can you substantiate what she said about her daughter, her high test scores, what percentile she's in compared to what she's been able to achieve?
Yes.
And she also mentioned that the Scientology basically does not want people to get an education in the public realm.
That's right.
Would you say that it's a common policy in Scientology to keep people out of public school or give them a education?
I would say so. They look down on education.
In your own personal experience, do you fear for children that enter Scientology that they are not, from your own personal experience, getting the education that's required?
Yes.
In auditing, you said you were a very high-level auditor.
Yes.
This is one of the largest ways that money comes into the organization?
Yes, it is.
And you said that each person that you audited felt that he or she, their auditing information was confidential?
Yes, they believed it was confidential.
And you believed and they believed also that it was based on scientific work and research and data?
I believe so.
Well, would any of these people have bought or purchased auditing if they were told that the files would not be confidential?
I don't know.
They would not?
I don't think so.
In your opinion?
In my opinion.
As an experienced auditor and one of the highest auditors that Scientology bestows on someone?
Yes.
Have you ever seen a Ned for OT or Knott's rally?
A
Knott's rally?
No.
Okay.
Oh, yes, I have. I'm sorry.
You have?
Yes. Yes.
And you saw the money that would come in for these services?
Yes.
If those people found out that Mr. Hubbard spent no years researching, would they spend the $25,000 up to $25,000 to $40,000 for the courses if they were told that he did no research?
In my opinion, no.
Would they, if told that he flunked out of science courses, would they pay this money?
I don't know. I don't think so.
Okay. I just wanted your personal opinion.
Okay.
And did they ever tell you that auditing would cure your physical headaches?
Yes. I was told when I joined the Sea Org 3 years ago in Los Angeles, I told my recruiter that I get severe headaches, and he said, don't worry about it. He said, Ned Ferrotis handles that right away. He said, no problem. So I joined the Sea Org.
So based on his promise to cure your headaches, you spent the money or gave the work to get into Ned Ferrotis?
Yes.
Did they ever say anything that they could do anything with your eyesight?
No.
Okay. And when you were in the last area of questioning is when you were in the Sea organization and you were being recruited into the organization, I've heard testimony that people were told that they would have nice living conditions, that they would make up to $700 per week. Did these kind of ideas go through your mind at first?
I pretty much knew the living conditions. I knew that I would be in a dorm. I didn't know that there would be roaches and no air conditioner and 10 people in the room with me, but I knew I would be in a dorm. I thought maybe 3 girls.
Did they tell you that by policy that it would be a type of rigorous military regimen?
I knew that before I joined.
Mr. Burfield, do you have any
Before I joined the Sea Org, yes.
Just a few. The gentleman that testified earlier, I think, has brought out a point that has been uppermost in my mind, and that is people that have come forward for this legislative hearing, what motivated you to come here?
I believe that people should be told the truth, especially Scientologists, and I hope they're listening to these hearings. From personal experience, what I have gone through in the past few months, wanting to leave and thinking that I actually couldn't leave an organization is a horrible feeling, and I've been going through absolute hell these past few months, and I want Scientologists to know that they could speak up, they could give an opinion, they could have their own thoughts, they could do what they want. That's why I'm here, including my husband. I want him to he's been put on the RPF just recently. He called me last week, and he thinks it's great that he's going to be put on the RPF now. And I hate to see these things go on, because I believe that the RPF is a place where you really get brainwashed. You work day and night, and you get intense auditing. That's why I'm here, just to let Scientologists know that they can't speak up.
This is a little side issue. I take it that you and your husband are still in love, then?
I love my husband.
Couple of questions. You said that you had taught these auditing courses. Do you use books and those?
I have never taught a Scientology course. That was my sister, Lori.
Oh. Have you ever read any of these? I was just looking at this Dianetics. Have you ever read it?
Yes.
Just from your own personal experience, having read it previously, and if I understand your testimony that you have given up Scientology,
Yes.
how much truth or value would you put in this book now?
I haven't seen any truth in the book. From applying it, from being an auditor, I have never seen someone get cured of an illness in all the experience that I've had. Oh, okay. I wasn't an a supervisor. I didn't teach the courses, but I was an auditor for about 15 years.
Looking back in retrospect, and I realize it's hard for you now, but if you had to define or describe Scientology, how would you describe it?
As a harmful cult.
Do you, in their solicitation program for these various courses, is there any deception in it?
Yes.
How so?
I believe you promise things that don't exist in Scientology. That goes as far as auditing and your training.
On the, I believe you also testified on the children that you did not have much to do with the children over at...
No, I didn't.
In reading various documents that you've had there, how would you know personally whether or not they were, for the sake of a better description, corporate documents, something that came down from corporate headquarters or flag or whatever you wish to call it?
I'm sorry, I didn't get that. How do you...
Charlie, the answer you can get.
I don't understand. Yes. Okay. Well, they have executive courses where you learn policy. And they have technical courses where you learn how to become an auditor. You read the policies, you drill them, you get checked out by your supervisor, and you apply the policy.
But could the policy be something that Mr. Flynn wrote up or I wrote up? How would you know that the policy
Well, Scientologists would never doubt that L. Ron Hubbard wrote it if his name was on it. Just recently, I believe people started to suspect that possibly he wasn't writing the policy.
I mean, if I wrote up a policy and just wrote R. Hubbard on it, that y'all would have believed it at that time?
Well, I couldn't answer that. It would depend on what... Yeah. Well, policies are written in a certain way. L. Ron Hubbard has a way of writing things that's very similar, so I guess you would know by that.
But if it had his name on it, it was gospel.
Yes.
Mr. Burfield, I might help on this. Could you explain what an HCO is?
An HC, what is
Hubbard Coordinating Officer?
Hubbard Communications
Yes,
Office?
Yes, in terms of where the documents come from that you would be reading, for an example. I mean, they come from there, is my understanding.
Yes. Yeah.
You mentioned, I believe, also that you had audited hundreds of thousands of people.
Yes. Thousands of people.
Thousands.
Okay.
Did you at any time ever tell them that that what they were doing really wasn't going to help them?
No.
Did you believe that it was going to help them?
Yes, I did.
If I understand your testimony now, you say that in your own mind it would not help them. Is that
No.
Your sister, you were talking about her being blown. Do you know for a fact how she returned to Clearwater? By that, let me clarify that. Was she brought back under force or?
No, she wasn't. No.
Have you ever had any contact with these people that have been blown? Personal contact?
No.
Just one last question here. Well, two. I believe you also testified that you were told that someone told you that auditing or something could help you with your headaches. Is
Yes.
that correct? And you found out that this is not correct. Is that?
That is not correct.
Your reason for not leaving Scientology was all psycho. It was not physical. Is that correct?
I believe it would have come to be physical if I tried to leave. They make practice of stopping people from blowing, but most of it was mental. I could have left. I could have walked out the door.
In this 13-odd years, something had been installed in you or instilled in you that if you left, that you would be forcefully returned?
I believe that.
Just one question, or two. I asked your sister this. In the time you were in Clearwater, in your mind, there was no one in the city of Clearwater that you felt safe that you could have turned to for help?
When I was in Clearwater, I was very much a Scientologist. Even though this was going on, and I was very unhappy, I would never go to anyone except a Scientologist.
Didn't turn to a physician or a doctor?
No.
And I'll leave you with this one. If you could tell the people of Clearwater and they all could hear you, what would you tell them?
Well, I think I mentioned it earlier, how I feel about Scientology. When I was in Clearwater at Flag, I hated the city, and I dreaded coming back. And I look at it very different now. I think Scientology, something should be done about Scientology. I'm glad that the hearings are going on. I'm glad the people are hearing the truth and what goes on at the Fort Harrison. That's all.
All right. Before we adjourn, or not adjourn, we bring in the next question. Two quick ones. Of all the thousands of people you've audited, if they knew that Ron's background was suspect, do you think they would have allowed themselves to be audited or spent the money?
I don't think so.
You mentioned you're married and you love your husband. When you were married, did you live with him or did you live in a dorm? You mentioned living in a dorm.
Yeah. I lived in a dorm when I came to Clearwater. He wasn't with me.
Oh, but you certainly, when you are married, you can live with your husband
Yes, you can.
in the same room.
Yes, I didn't live in the Sea quarters when I was with my husband.
Okay. Well, that's it. Is your husband in the RFP?
Yeah, the RPF.
RPF, I mean.
He called me last week, and he
What
told...
did you do?
Yeah, it's known that we are going to get a divorce. He said he couldn't possibly live with me now that I'm not a Scientologist. And when you're in the Sea Org, you're not allowed to have sexual relations with anyone except your spouse. And he had sexual relations with someone, and he gave that up in an auditing session. And that was used against him, and he was put on the RPF.
You mean the confessional told on him?
Yes, the confessional.
I think I'd better leave it right where it is.
Okay.
Yeah, I think so too.
Thank you for coming,
Okay.
for being an excellent witness.
Thank you.
Enjoyed it staying Clearwater.
Glad you hope you...
Are you enjoying the beach?
We'd like to bring the next witness, or do you want to?
David Ray, please.
All right.
And as a point of information, with regard to the issues relating to the confidentiality of auditing at the appropriate time, extensive documentation will be put into evidence concerning the use of auditing information by the organization.
Mr. Flinway, your witnesses have come up here after Rosie, be high-level auditors or have trained as auditors to the degree that Rosie and her sister Lori have.
I'd have to look through my witness list. There may be one or two more auditors. We've got different people for different purposes. We haven't heard from any real GO people yet, except that Mr. Walters has knowledge, and we haven't heard from administrative people yet. There may be one or two more who did some auditing, but for the most part, we're going to get into some of the more guardian's office type activities as the hearings progress.